Close your eyes. Breathe deeply. Inhale, exhale, here in the darkness. Let go of all your worries. Let the troubles of the day drift away like clouds passing in the night sky. It's just you, the gentle rhythm of my voice and the comforting sounds around you. You feel yourself drifting off to sleep. You are falling into a deep slumber, deeper and deeper. In this calm state between wakefulness and sleep, I am going to tell you a story. It's an entrancing tale that will carry you through the quiet hours until morning light. Now wrapped in the warmth of your blankets, you listen intently as the story begins. This is the first part of a two-part episode. Each part is like a mini-episode on its own, but together they form one complete story. Part 2 will be out tomorrow. Make sure to stay tuned so you don't miss it. Also, stick around after the story for an exclusive never-before-heard bonus segment I've created just for listeners of this channel. It's a special treat for those who make it to the end. So let the story begin. In a distant land far from your own, nestled amidst rolling hills and whispering trees, there lived a young girl named Alara. She had hair the color of spun gold and eyes that twinkled like stars in the night sky. One evening, as twilight painted the sky in hues of purple and pink, Alara decided to venture into the forest at the edge of her village. The woods were deep and mysterious, filled with gnarled trees that reached towards the heavens, and dappled sunlight that danced on the forest floor. As she ventured deeper, the trees grew thicker and the path less clear. Suddenly, the air grew heavy with mist, and the trees seemed to close in around her, forming a tunnel of ancient trunks and leafy branches. Just as fear began to creep into her heart, the trees parted, revealing a sight that took her breath away. Before her stood a magnificent castle bathed in the soft glow of the setting sun. Its towers touched the clouds and its walls seemed to shimmer like a mirage. Drawn by an unseen force, Alara stepped into the castle grounds. As she explored, she realized she was not alone. There before her, frozen in time, were countless people engaged in activities, from a bustling marketplace to musicians playing enchanting tunes and merchants selling wares. All seemed lost in a timeless moment, oblivious to Alara's presence. Curious and a bit frightened, Alara continued her exploration. She wandered through grand halls adorned with intricate tapestries and paintings, each telling silent stories of a forgotten era. In the throne room, she saw a majestic king seated on a throne of polished wood. He wore robes of deep velvet and a crown of gleaming gold. But his face was shrouded in mist, hidden from view. Determined to uncover the truth, Alara delved deeper into the castle's secrets. She discovered an old library filled with dusty books, whose pages whispered tales of the past. As she searched, she found a hidden chamber containing a single mirror. Its surface was tarnished, but as Alara gazed into its depths, the mists cleared, revealing a shocking sight. The girl staring back was not herself, but the very same majestic queen from the throne room. Her golden hair cascaded down her shoulders, and her eyes held the wisdom of ages. But something was amiss. The queen's face, too, was veiled in mist, concealing her identity. Overcome with a mix of fear and determination, Alara fled the castle, racing through the forest, the sound of her own heartbeat echoing in her ears. As she ran, the trees seemed to whisper warnings, and the shadows took on menacing forms. Finally, bursting out of the woods, she collapsed near the edge of the village, her heart pounding in her chest. Gasping for breath, Alara looked back at the forest, but it was gone. In its place stood the familiar homes and streets of her village. Had it all been a dream? Was the magnificent castle and enigmatic queen merely figments of her imagination? Or was there more to the story, a deeper truth hidden beneath the surface? And now you are waking up, blinking in the soft morning light. The dream lingers in your mind, a tapestry of mystery and intrigue. The memory of the golden-haired girl and the elusive queen fills your thoughts. What did it all mean? Was it merely a dream, or a glimpse into another realm? The sun streams in through your window, beckoning you to start a brand new day. As you rise, you shake off the remnants of your slumber, wondering if you should share your dreams with others. But then a peculiar thought strikes you. You remember distinctly sharing this exact same dream with someone else, someone very dear to you. You rush to tell them about it, but their confused expression stops you in your tracks. They have no recollection of such a dream. Puzzled, you wonder if you're mistaken. Could the dream have been shared only in your mind? And if so, what does that say about the nature of dreams and reality itself? The world seems a little different today. Colors appear more vibrant, sounds sharper. Reality feels fluid, as if on a shifting foundation. An unsettling feeling creeps in, making you question everything you know. You notice friends and family members looking at you strangely, as though you were someone they once knew. But the connection seems lost. Disturbed by this growing disconnect, you try to reach out to them, but your words fail to bridge the widening gap. You're trapped in a reality that's becoming increasingly alien to you. Panic starts to set in. You're not sure if you can trust your senses. You question whether you're losing your mind. The line between dreams and reality blurs. You're not sure which side you're on. Then suddenly, a faint glimmer of hope appears. You remember hearing about a place where others might share your confusion, where you can find answers. Or so you open, but the path to this sanctuary is unclear. You must navigate a maze of winding roads and hidden paths, always feeling like you're on the verge of breakthrough, yet never quite reaching it. Throughout your journey, you encounter individuals who seem as lost and confused as you are. Their eyes hold a haunting familiarity, yet when you reach out to them, they drift away like mist in the wind. As you continue your search, the boundaries of reality grow even more fragmented. Time seems to distort, days stretch into weeks, and the faces of strangers become more and more like the loved ones you're trying to find. You're caught in a labyrinth of shifting identities and fading memories. Your hope begins to dwindle, replaced by a chilling realization. Perhaps there's no escape from this unending labyrinth. Perhaps you're destined to wander forever, forever seeking solace in a world that's no longer your own. You ponder a profound question. If our memories, our anchors to identity, can betray us, who are we? And if the world we perceive is shaped by our collective memory, what happens when that memory begins to unravel? You realize that you're not just experiencing this cognitive dissonance. It's a universal phenomenon. Countless others are likely trapped in their own fragmented realities. And then the most unsettling thought strikes you. This isn't a dream. You're awake. This entire experience has been happening while you were awake. You're experiencing a strange phenomenon known as the Mandela Effect. Have you heard of it? This is the phenomenon that occurs when large groups of people share false memories. People who confidently recall events that never happened or who share the same inaccurate memories. It's named after former South African President Nelson Mandela. For years, many people vividly remembered him dying in prison in the 1980s, despite ample evidence proving he passed away in 2013. How could so many people remember his death decades before it occurred? Is it possible that alternate universes are colliding, rewriting our collective memory? Or could there be other explanations for this shared delusion? As you grapple with these questions, a sense of foreboding washes over you. You've glimpsed something profound, something that challenges the very fabric of your reality. If our memories can't be trusted, what does that mean for the world we inhabit? Are you on the verge of discovering a hidden truth that others have forgotten? Or perhaps one that they've never known? What you do with this knowledge is up to you. Will you continue to seek answers, or will you choose to live with the uncertainty? The choice is yours. The path ahead remains unwritten. Your journey through the Mandela Effect has just begun. And now the bonus segment you've been waiting for. Due to the nature of the story in the late hour, I won't be able to share it here. Instead, I'll post it to my server. By joining, you'll gain access to the full bonus story, which I've crafted specifically for late-night listeners. Plus, it's a great community for those who love dark and mysterious content. To join, simply click the link in the description below. Once inside, look for the bonus segment under the hashtag Stories channel. It'll be waiting for you along with other exclusive content. See you in the next part. In part 1 of this series, we discussed how memories are not reliable and can be distorted by our brain and outside influences. But that was just the tip of the iceberg. Because it turns out there are cases where lots of people all share the same false memories. And if that's not enough, they all vividly remember that their memory is correct. This is part 2 of our series on false memories. So buckle up, because today we're going to explore 3 of the most famous examples of the Mandela Effect. You may have heard some of these before, but stick around until the end, because we've got a good one for you to add to the list. Do you know what you were doing when you first heard about Nelson Mandela's death? Chances are you don't, because it probably hasn't happened yet. As of recording, Nelson Mandela is still alive at the ripe age of 104. Now, if you'd like to pretend with us that he died in the early 80s, then you might remember him being close to death in Robben Island prison. Maybe you recall images of his frail body being carried out of prison and everyone being shocked at how much weight he lost during his incarceration. Or maybe you remember his funeral, a sea of somber faces saying goodbye to the beloved activist. Well, none of that ever happened because Mandela didn't die in the 80s or really close to it. He spent 27 years in prison, but he was released in 1990 and died in 2013. So why do so many people, including high-profile celebrities like singer Courtney Love and actor Gary Oldman, claim to remember Mandela dying prematurely? We'll never know for sure, but some have theorized that when Mandela was close to death in 2013, the media could have subconsciously planted the idea of his death in people's minds. Essentially, since so many people had been anticipating Mandela's death for decades, it would have been a big letdown when he finally kicked the bucket in his late 90s. So the media could have made it seem like he died earlier than he actually did to save face. This theory is loosely backed by research on grief. In an article for Psychology Today, psychologist David Brooks explains that when a highly anticipated death occurs, some people may even experience a period of mourning before realizing that the dead person is still alive. Brooks writes, they say to themselves, "I thought this person was dead. I felt their death. How could I be wrong?" Of course, this doesn't explain why so many people remember details of Mandela's supposed funeral or his frail body being released from prison, so take it with a grain of salt. It is also possible that this is another example of the false memory phenomenon known as the confabulation of missing details. Basically, when you hear a story about something you don't know, your brain can fill in the blanks with details that seem to fit. For instance, if someone told you the basics of the plot of Titanic, you may have conjured up images of Rose and Jack hugging on a life raft, even though that never happened. The truth is, despite being one of the highest-grossing movies of all time, Titanic has never actually been watched by anyone on the team, and that's okay. Not every detail of every movie is seared into our brains, but for some reason, a lot of people remember lines from movies, like when they were younger. Have you ever recited lines from The Lion King? If you grew up in the West, chances are you've rattled off Simba's "I just can't wait to be king." But if you try to do the same with Beauty and the Beast, you might stumble over the lyrics. Try singing Be Our Guest right now. Go ahead. We'll wait. Did you realize that the line is actually Be Our Guest? Be Our Guest. It seems silly to mess up a song you've heard dozens of times, especially since you probably belted out this tune in the 90s. So, why do so many people incorrectly remember the line as Beauty and the Guest? Well, it's hard to say without asking everyone who has ever sung Dee's song. It's likely due to a combination of things. First, since this song was written by the Sherman Brothers, who were responsible for tons of Disney hits, it is possible that the lyrics got jumbled in people's minds with other songs they wrote, like Supercalifragilistic, Superlidocious, from Mary Poppins. After all, there are some striking similarities between the two. Both songs invite a group of people to come enjoy themselves at a fancy place. They both rhyme guest, MBR, and supercalifragilist. Supercalifragilistic has an upbeat tempo, similar to Be Our Guest. So if you've heard both songs dozens of times, it makes sense that your brain would get them confused and combine them into one big musical mess. Second, since so many people were fans of the original animated version of Beauty and the Beast, it is possible that those lyrics were also muddled with the song Something, there in which Belle sings, "There must be more than this provincial life." There's gotta be more than this. I can't imagine what. The phrase "more than this" sounds a lot like Beauty and the Guest, which is understandable if you haven't heard the song in decades. And third, this is just human error. Most people aren't lyricists, so it is perfectly normal to mess up a line or two in a song you've heard hundreds of times. And if you think about it, the vast majority of people never mix up these lyrics, so perhaps we should just leave the singing to the professionals. We're almost done, so grab a glass of water and get ready, because this next one will blow your mind. Does the word Berenstain sound familiar? It probably does if you grew up in the US and read the popular children's books. However, if you ask someone born in the UK or Australia, they will probably tell you that the name of the book series is spelled Berenstain. That's right. People remember the spelling of a word that isn't real either way. So what, Hebes? To answer this question, we have to look back at the history of the series. The Berenstain Bears was originally called the Berenstain Bears. These books were written by Stan and Jen Berenstain and illustrated by Jen. The series was published in the US and the UK, which is why people on both sides of the pond remember the spelling of the name. In fact, the UK editions of the books were published by a company called L.J. Rose & Co., who held the rights to publish the series in Britain. The books were published from 1962 to 1997, entitled The Berenstain Bears. In 1998, Penguin Books bought out L.J. Rose and began publishing their own editions of the books. Since Penguin already owned the rights to another children's series called The Berenstain Bears, the name of the books had to be changed. This caused quite the controversy among longtime fans in the UK. So instead of simply changing the spelling of the name, Penguin decided to anglicize it altogether, turning it into the Berenstain Bears. This change was also made to the covers of the books to avoid confusion with the American series. But despite the name change, the Berenstain Bears still retained its original charm and became a huge success in Britain. So why do Americans vividly remember a series that was never published in America with that spelling? Well, it could be because of the Mandela Effect, which makes sense, considering the series was wildly popular. Tons of kids were reading the Berenstain Bears in the 90s, and if they were constantly being exposed to this phrase, some could have subconsciously altered it to Berenstain. Another possibility is the books simply reminded readers of another popular series with a similar name. Or maybe people remember the name as Berenstain because they learned it from adults who read the books to them. After all, children repeat a lot of things they hear from parents, teachers, and TV characters. Take the Cookie Monster. For instance, if you've ever tried to get a kid to eat vegetables, you've probably pleaded with them to just finish their plate like the Cookie Monster. But if you've ever asked a child who is too young to watch Sesame Street what the monster's name is, they'll probably tell you that it's Cookie Monster. On the show, the character's name is Big Bird, not just Bird. But children often shorten names and phrases they hear from adults. So it's entirely possible that Berenstain was a product of this. Whatever the case, it's safe to say that both spellings of the name are technically incorrect. But we won't tell the Cookie Monster that. Do you know of any other bizarre memories that people share? Let us know in the comments below and stay tuned for part 3 of These Serious. Thanks for watching. Last time we looked at some alternative scientific explanations for ghosts. Things like electromagnetic fields and radiation. This time, we're going to look at some other ideas from the world of science. But this time, they're going to be a little bit weirder. So, buckle up, Buttercup, because here comes the multiverse. Welcome back to the channel. Now, before I get into it, I should probably tell you that I don't actually believe any of these theories. I'm just saying they're out there, but let me show you what I mean. The first theory we're going to look at is false memory. False memories are an interesting psychological phenomenon. They can be simple, like misremembering the details of a dream you had last night. Or they can be more complex, like remembering an entire event that never happened. False memories can be created in a number of ways, such as through repeated questioning or exposure to suggestive information. For example, in one study, researchers told participants that they had been in a classroom at age 4 when someone had approached them while they were sitting at their desk, pulled out a knife, and threatened to hurt them, even though none of the participants had ever experienced this event. Many of them began to remember details about the classroom and the person who had attacked them. Basically, the brain is kind of like a computer that stores and processes information. Sometimes, the information is processed incorrectly, leading to the creation of false memories, and those memories can be just as vivid and detailed as real ones. Here's another example. There was this guy named Doan who started having recurring dreams about being chased by a man in a red van. He remembered these dreams so vividly that he even began to incorporate them into his waking life. He began to avoid driving in red vans and would even run away from them if he saw them while walking outside. Eventually, he even began to see red vans everywhere. He couldn't shake the feeling that he was being followed or stalked by some unknown stalker. But then one day he decided to talk to a therapist and after doing some digging, they found out that the whole thing was actually caused by a combination of two true memories that had been fused together in Dhoni's subconscious. One memory was of a car chase that he had seen as a child involving a man in a red van. The other memory was of a conversation he had had with a friend about how common it was for people to have stalker-like obsessions. By combining these two memories, Dawn's brain created a new one of him being stalked by a man in a red van. Okay, so what does this have to do with ghosts? Well, let's say that instead of Dawn subconsciously fusing two memories together, he had actually somehow merged with the consciousness of the man from the red van. Maybe Dawn was able to perceive the man's thoughts and emotions so clearly because he was essentially tapping into his mind directly. Maybe the man in the van had also died and his consciousness was stuck on Earth, unable to move on because he had unresolved issues with his past. All of a sudden, Dawn isn't just having false memories. He's experiencing the memories of a ghost. Next, we have confabulation. Confabulation is a psychological defense mechanism in which a person makes up plausible-sounding stories to fill in gaps in their memory. It often occurs in people who have suffered brain injuries or who have certain psychiatric disorders. Basically, it's the brain's way of making up for lost information, like false memories. Confabulations can be triggered by something simple like a dream, or something more complex like a conversation. For example, let's say you knew someone who died tragically young. You might remember them fondly and often think about how they would be if they were still alive. What would they be doing now? How old would they be? What kind of job would they have? Over time, you might start to form beliefs about these things, even though you have no way of knowing for sure. Your brain is simply filling in the gaps in your memory. Now, again, how does this relate to ghosts? Well, what if it was under your own brain filling in the blanks with the brain of the ghost itself? What if when someone dies, their consciousness is uploaded to the internet and their memories are stored in a database somewhere in the cloud? Now you could access those memories by simply logging in and downloading them onto your own brain. And if enough people downloaded the same set of memories, those memories would eventually become part of the collective unconsciousness of humanity. Someday soon, scientists will probably be able to read our memories by simply looking at our brains. If they could somehow combine all of our brains together, we could potentially download anyone's memories by simply plugging into the network. Think about it. Anytime someone has a near-death experience, they often report seeing a white light and hearing voices. What if that's actually what's happening? What if their memories are being uploaded to the cloud? In a way, we already do this by recording our experiences on video and then watching them back later. But what if we could do it without the technology? What if we could just plug into the Matrix and see everything that everyone sees? But wait, there's more. What if we could do the same thing with our thoughts? What if we could plug into the Matrix and see everything that everyone thinks? We'd be able to know everyone's secrets, their hopes, their dreams, their fears. But then we'd also be able to see all the bad stuff, too. The evil thoughts, the dark desires, the repressed memories. It would be too much for most people to handle. So what if there was a way to block it out? A way to make the darkness go away? What if sometimes when we think we're dreaming, we're actually plugged into the Matrix and experiencing the thoughts of billions of people at once? Some of those thoughts might be pleasant, but many of them would be dark and disturbing. Our brains wouldn't be able to handle it, so they would simply shut down and we would fall into a coma. So, let us take a step back and look at these theories from the perspective of someone who doesn't believe in ghosts. First off, the idea that our brains could merge with the brains of other people seems far-fetched. Sure, we can connect our brains to computers and other electronic devices, but that's different than merging with another human brain. Plus, even if we could merge our brains, why would we want to? What would be the purpose of that? And second, the idea that we could download memories from a database in the cloud is also sure, we can store memories on computers, but that's different than storing them in a database in the cloud. Plus, even if we could store memories in a database, why would we want to? What would be the point of that? And third, the idea that we could block out the darkness by falling into a coma is also sure, we can fall into comas, but that's different than blocking out the darkness. Plus, even if we could block out the darkness, why would we want to? What would be the point of that? From a purely scientific perspective, none of these theories make much sense. But then again, neither does the idea that ghosts exist These theories may seem crazy, but they are no crazier than the leading scientific theories which state that ghosts are either electromagnetic fields or radiation. The truth is, we don't really know how ghosts work, and the fact that we don't know how ghosts work is exactly what makes them so fascinating. Speaking of which, have you ever wondered what happens when you die? Where do you go? Is there a heaven or hell? Or maybe you're reincarnated into another life form. Maybe you're nothing but a collection of atoms and molecules. Maybe there's a multiverse, and you get to live out all the possibilities. We've got you covered. Check out my other videos for more theories on ghosts and the afterlife. Some people say that the reason we do unknow the answer to this question is because science just is unadvanced enough yet. But what if that's not the case? What if science will never be able to answer the question of whether or not ghosts exist? What if we need a different way of thinking entirely? What if we need to look beyond science? That's what I explore in my next video. It's the most important video I've ever made, so make sure to check it out. Thanks for watching. Thanks for watching. In part 2, we looked at how Apple created an iconic design style that led to one of the most valuable brands in the world. In part 3, we saw how Apple's design style quickly became outdated, forcing them to reinvent themselves once again. But with so much history weighing them down, would Apple be able to shed their old image and move forward? Or would they be stuck in a never-ending cycle of decline? Well, let's find out. The year is 2007 and Apple has just unveiled the iPhone. Their brand new device looks like nothing we've seen before. It's not a laptop, it's not a desktop, but something in between. At first glance, you could say it looks like a slightly souped-up iPod, but it also comes with a keyboard and touchscreen capabilities. Essentially, this was a new product category that didn't exist until now, and although it looks similar to other devices, it's clearly unlike anything else on the market. The company needs a new design language to match. Apple doesn't want to fall back on the glossy look of the Power Mac era, but at the same time, they couldn't copy the flat aesthetic of the iPod, since that would just be too simple and boring. Instead, they decide to combine elements from both design styles. The result is something uniquely Apple: glossy surfaces, soft corners, and vibrant colors. This approach allows Apple to stay true to their core design identity while still breaking new ground. They've essentially mastered the art of evolution. Over the past decade, they've taken the basics of their design style and tweaked them for each new generation. But now it's time for a whole new direction. So, with the launch of iOS 7 in 2013, Apple completely abandons their signature look. Gone are the glossy surfaces and rounded corners. In their place, we see flat surfaces and sharp edges. Even the icons are redesigned to fit the new aesthetic. Although it looks quite different, this new style isn't just a random departure from the past. In fact, it's a return to one of Apple's earliest design influences: the Macintosh. Since the Mac was only available in black, Apple needed a way to differentiate their new operating system. So they tint the background of iOS 7 blue, creating a nice contrast between the Mac and iPhone. This small change ensures that customers instantly understand which operating system is which. As always, Steve Jobs pays attention to every little detail. But what about the logo? Should they redesign it to match the new aesthetic, or keep it the same? Well, since Apple already had a blue background, it made sense to go with a white version of the logo instead of the original black and white. This allowed them to better separate their products and avoid any confusion. Not to mention, it's easier to spot a white Apple logo on a blue background than the other way around. It's the same reason why they put white borders around the app icons. It helps them stand out more. This small tweak makes a big difference, especially when you consider the vast amount of products Apple sells. Speaking of which, if you look around, you'll notice that there's actually no logo on the actual products themselves. Instead, we only see the Apple logo on the box and marketing materials. This is because the Apple logo is a registered trademark that represents quality and innovation. By placing their logo on the box, Apple can guarantee that customers are purchasing an authentic product. If you buy an Apple box, you know exactly what to expect inside. However, the same cannot be said about the products themselves. An iPhone is just a smartphone, a MacBook is just a laptop, and an iPad is just a tablet. There's nothing special about the products themselves. The only thing that sets them apart is the software experience, which brings us to the biggest design change of all, iOS 7. Gone is the fluid design language of the past. iOS 7 is entirely based on skeuomorphism. This design style originated in the 90s with the introduction of macOS 10. It incorporates glass, shadows, and texture to create a unique depth. This adds a bit of personality to what would otherwise be a very simple interface. But as the years go by, iOS 7 begins to feel stale and dated. People start to complain that it looks too busy and cluttered. The flat design movement emerges as a reaction against this trend. Apple decides to jump on the bandwagon, but they do it in their own unique way. If you look closely at iOS 7, you'll notice that everything is slightly translucent. This means that some elements appear closer to the surface than others. This adds a bit of depth without the need for drop shadows or textures. Apple simply calls this design style flat. The advantage of this approach is that it gives Apple a lot more freedom with their color choices. For example, they can make one section of the screen darker to improve readability, or they can use color to indicate an active button. This allows Apple to create a more immersive and user-friendly experience. As you might have guessed, this design style quickly becomes a hit among users. In fact, it's so popular that other companies try to copy it. Unfortunately, they don't realize that Apple's design style is more than just pretty colors and sharp lines. It's a carefully thought-out approach that reflects the company's values. Every single decision has a purpose and contributes to the overall experience. That's why Apple's design style is so powerful. It's not just something that looks good. It tells people what the company stands for and what they can expect from their products. This brings us to the next big shift in Apple's design language. The death of Apple slowly transitions away from glass and shadow, opting for something simpler, flatter, and more modern. This approach allows them to reduce the number of layers in their interfaces, making things easier to navigate and more accessible. But not everyone is happy with this change. Many people prefer the depth and complexity of the previous design. The glass, shadow, and texture may add some visual interest, but they can also be distracting and take away from the overall user experience. That's why Apple takes a balanced approach. They keep enough elements around to provide context, but remove anything that's unnecessary or confusing. This allows them to improve performance while still providing users with a rich, engaging experience. By analyzing these changes, we can gain a deeper understanding of Apple's approach to design. They aren't afraid to experiment and break away from the past, but they always do it in a way that reflects their core values and enhances the user experience. This is what makes Apple such a successful company. They constantly push the boundaries of what's possible and never settle for the status quo. Their willingness to take risks and embrace change has allowed them to stay ahead of the competition and maintain their position as a leader in the industry. Now, fast forward to today, and Apple finds itself at another crossroads. The company has grown exponentially since 2007 and now sells everything from laptops and tablets to wearables and smartphones. With so many products in the market, Apple needs a new design style that can encompass all of their offerings. And that is exactly what they do with the introduction of iOS 10 in 2016. Gone is the flat design language of the past. In its place, we see a more refined and sophisticated style. Apple ditches the bright colors and replaces them with a more muted palette. The interface feels more spacious and less cluttered thanks to a reduction in the number of buttons and other UI elements. This creates a more streamlined and user-friendly experience. But what about the logo? Should Apple update it to reflect the new design style or keep it the same? Well, since the new design style is more subdued and sophisticated, Apple opts for a more elegant font for the logo. This helps to reinforce the message that Apple has matured as a company and is now targeting a more sophisticated audience. But not everyone is happy with this change. Some people prefer the boldness of the original font and feel that the new version is too stylized and difficult to read. However, this is just another example of Apple's willingness to take risks and embrace change. The company has never been afraid to experiment with its design. And this is just the latest example of that. Only time will tell whether this new design style will be as successful as the previous ones. So, with that being said, you guys are amazing. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Hello. This is part 5 of our series on anomalies, glitches in the Matrix. If you're new to this series, we explore alleged disruptions in the space-time continuum, moments where reality appears to have broken down, shifted, or looped back on itself. In the fourth episode, we discussed instances of objects moving through solid matter, doors passing through walls, and people walking through windows without breaking them. Now let's turn our attention to another strange set of anomalies, those involving the movie and media. We all know the most iconic line from Star Wars, Darth Vader's revelation to Luke, "Luke, I am your father." It's one of the most famous lines ever spoken in a movie, and yet the actual line Vader says is, "No, I am your father." As if Vader was correcting someone who had said he wasn't Luke's father. It's an altogether less powerful line, so how did we all come to remember it wrong? There are similar examples with other iconic movie lines. For instance, the evil queen in Snow White asks the mirror, "Mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all?" But she never actually says mirror, mirror on the wall. That phrase was made up by Disney. We don't even know what the real line was, because it was cut out of the final edit of the film. Yet most people who've seen the movie seem to remember that line as being in the movie. Where does that extra line come from? Why do we all remember it wrong? And there's something else that's very weird about that movie. When the queen asks the mirror who is the fairest, the mirror responds, "You are the fairest of them all." But when the prince asks the mirror the same question, the mirror responds, "But Snow White is the fairest of them all." If the queen really was the fairest, then wouldn't the mirror respond the same way to the prince's question? Why does the mirror lie? And why do we all remember this inconsistency? Let's look at some other famous film quotes. "Here's looking at you, kid," is supposedly Rick's last line to Ilsa in Casablanca. He actually said, "Here's looking at you, kiddo." Similarly, in The Wizard of Oz, the Wicked Witch of the West doesn't say, "I'm melting, I'm melting." She actually says, "Oh, my brains are melting." Those changes are obviously minor. But why do we remember the lines wrong? It could just be simple misremembering, the kind of thing that happens with names and faces. But this next example seems more deliberate. In The Empire Strikes Back, right before Darth Vader reveals he's Luke's father, "It tastes, Luke. You do not yet realize your importance, your role in the development of the Force." But everyone remembers that line as him saying, "You don't know the power of the Force." Now that change would have been impossible to avoid, since it is obvious the original line was never in the movie. But for some reason, the line was dubbed over in most versions of the film, including the original theatrical release, the special editions, the DVD, the Blu-ray, and even the IMAX re-release. But this change isn't reflected in the novelization, which is based directly on the shooting script and doesn't contain that line at all. The novelization also contains the line, "No, I am your father." So why did they change that line to you? Do you know the power of the Force? Was it just a mistake? Was it done to make the line more memorable? Or was it done to cover up a glitch in the Matrix? Another oddity involving dialogue comes from the TV show Friends. You may remember the episode where Ross finds out that his wife, Carol, is leaving him for another woman. Ross responds by asking, Could I be wearing any more clothes?" But that line was never spoken in the episode. The line Ross actually says is, "Could I be wearing any more clothes?" Ross always says that line in that same exasperated tone, as if he were asking a rhetorical question. But the writers of the show didn't bother to put subtitles on that line. And when Chandler repeats Ross's question, the subtitles say, "Could I be wearing any more clothes?" What's going on here? Some things are getting a little weird, but it gets weirder. There are reports of people who have actually heard the line, "Could I be wearing any more clothes?" People who have seen that episode more than once, yet none of them can remember anyone else saying the line. This is pretty strange. It's not like that line was cut out of the final edit. It's still in the show. You can watch it on HBO Max. But nobody can remember it. They don't remember it because it never happened. It was never on screen. Even though the line appears on screen in the subtitles, it wasn't recorded or filmed. There is no record of it ever having existed. Everyone thinks they remember hearing it, yet no one can prove it exists. That brings us to one of the strangest movie anomalies of all. Most of us grew up watching movies like The Lion King, The Jungle Book, Snow White, Pinocchio, and so on. But it turns out a lot of us remember things that were never in those movies. In The Lion King, many people remember Mufasa telling Simba, "Remember, son, you'll always be my pride." But that line was never in the movie. The line Mufasa actually says to Simba is, "Remember, "You're more than this. You're a king." Many people also remember Mufasa saying, "Everything the light touches is our kingdom." But that line was never in the movie either. Those lines didn't just magically appear in people's memories. They were put there on purpose. In the late 1980s and early 1990s, rumors began circulating that Walt Disney Productions was adding subliminal messages to their animated films. Subliminal messages are images or sounds flashed on the screen too quickly for viewers to consciously perceive. Some people claim that Disney was putting controversial images like a burning American flag or Mickey Mouse giving a Nazi salute into their films. But now we know the truth. Disney was putting extra lines of dialogue into their films. Lines that weren't in the shooting script. Lines that never appeared on screen, but which were synced up to characters, mouth movements, and added to the soundtrack. Why did Disney do that? Well, we can guess. Maybe they wanted to make the characters seem more relatable. Maybe they thought it would add a deeper meaning to the story. But that raises another. How do we know these lines never appeared on screen? If you go to YouTube and search for those clips, you won't find them. None of those scenes exist. At least, we don't think they exist. We haven't checked every single frame of every single Disney movie from the past 60 years. But given the odds, it seems extremely unlikely that those lines actually appeared on screen. This is really bizarre. Why would the Disney animators put in all that effort to add lines that would never appear on screen? It would have been so much easier to just write the lines into the script and sync them up with the animation. Why go through all that work for no reason? Well, maybe they weren't making the lines for the viewers. Maybe they were making the lines for themselves. Disney animators have been reported as saying those lines were added to help them stay in character while voicing the animals. But that doesn't explain why we all remember those lines being in the movies. We didn't all hallucinate the same thing. The lines were in the movies. They just weren't on screen. So how did those lines get into our memories? Well, we can only speculate. Perhaps the only way to find out is to return to the source, the original negative, the original film stock. But there's a problem. Walt Disney Studios refuses to allow anyone access to the original negatives. They won't even allow researchers to view them under controlled conditions. That leads us to wonder why they're so tight-lipped about those original films. Are they hiding something? What about other studios? Do they keep their original negatives locked away? Well, yes, they do. Paramount, Warner Brothers, and MGM refuse to allow anyone to view their original negatives. And there are rumors that some of those studios are destroying their old film stock. That is very suspicious behavior, but maybe it's just paranoia. After all, there's nothing sinister about keeping your original negatives in a vault. It's just business, right? Well, maybe. Or maybe we've just stumbled upon another glitch in the Matrix. Another moment where the laws of physics were suspended or ignored. A moment where reality seemed to have broken down. If you enjoyed this video, check out part 3 of our series on glitches in the Matrix. Part 6. Historical shifts. We often think of time as this unwavering force that marches forward relentlessly. But if we're not careful, we can easily get lost in a rabbit hole of historical inconsistencies. It all starts with one small shift in time, but it can rapidly snowball into a complete rewriting of everything we know about our past. Let me share with you some unsettling cover examples that expose just how fragile our grasp on history truly is. You'll want to stick around for the last one. It's bound to leave you questioning the very nature of time itself. Countries in different places. Imagine being at a pivotal moment in your country's history, fighting alongside your fellow citizens for freedom and democracy. The struggle is fierce, but the cause is just, and the sacrifices are worth it. Years later, you sit down to watch a documentary about those hard-won battles. You expect to relive the struggles, the victories, and the profound impact they had on your country's future. But instead, you're met with an entirely different narrative. Not only that, the geography's changed too. Instead of your country being in the place you know, it's somewhere else entirely. That is exactly what happened to a Greek man who was watching a documentary about the 1974 Turkish invasion of Cyprus. As he watched, his blood ran cold when he saw Turkey invading Greece. Confused and frightened, he reached out to his brother for help because he thought Greece was under attack. Only then did they realize the television set was tuned into a different channel. and it was actually a documentary about the Turkish invasion of Cyprus decades ago. In fact, when the region was under British colonial rule, the island of Cyprus was much closer to Greece than it is now. That distance would eventually be reduced when Cyprus became an independent republic in 1960. But even then, it still remained closer to Greece than it does today. It's uncanny how this simple change in geography can rewrite an entire history. This goes to show that our understanding of history can be incredibly fragile and susceptible to even the smallest shifts in context. When memories change, have you ever experienced a moment when your memory of an event seemed to clash with the recollections of those around you? It's a strange phenomenon that can leave you questioning the reliability of your own mind. You swear you remember things one way, but everyone else insists it was different. Are you misremembering, or are they wrong? This exact scenario played out in the Soviet Union in 1984 when two men, Lev Kaplev and Yevgeny Yevtushenko, found themselves in the midst of a political storm. Both were writers, but their perspectives on the Soviet Union's recent past were at odds. When asked about the death of writer and former dissident Vasily Aksionov, whose body was found under mysterious circumstances in 1980, both men had vivid memories, yet their stories differed dramatically. Kapelev claimed that Aksionov had been beaten to death by the KGB, while Yevtushenko insisted he had taken his own life. This discrepancy in memories led to a broader examination of their shared past, uncovering a fractured and distorted version of history. Each man's perspective was shaped by the way they experienced the Soviet Union, with Kovalev's memories highlighting the brutality of the regime and Yevtushenko's offering a more nuanced view. Eventually, the truth came to light. Aksionov had been poisoned by KGB agents after refusing to recant his earlier dissident activities. The incident serves as a powerful reminder of how our memories can shape our understanding of history and how even the most traumatic events can be remembered and interpreted in vastly different ways. Benjamin Franklin, Dies twice. Time may be a relentless force, but that doesn't mean it's always accurate. Take, for example, the case of Benjamin Franklin, one of America's founding fathers who, according to some accounts, died not once but twice. Imagine that. In 1735, when Franklin was just 29 years old, he suffered a serious health scare that left him partially for nearly a year. He was unable to work, struggling to regain control of his limbs and endure excruciating pain. Yet somehow, against all odds, he pulled through. But then lightning struck again, both figuratively and literally. On January 17, 1790, Franklin died for the second time, this time from pleurisy, a condition that causes inflammation of the membrane that surrounds the lungs. And yet, remarkably, he had survived a similar illness just over half a century before. How can someone die twice? It's enough to make your head spin. Well, it turns out that Franklin's supposed second death was actually a case of mistaken identity. The person who died in 1790 was not Benjamin Franklin, but rather his younger brother, also named Benjamin. As it turns out, there was a mix-up with the records, and the elder Franklin was mistakenly declared dead. Fortunately, the error was eventually discovered and corrected, but not before causing some serious confusion. This bizarre case of mistaken identity highlights just how messy and unpredictable our understanding of history can be. Sometimes the truth is stranger than fiction, and even the most basic facts of our past can be shrouded in uncertainty. The Second American Revolution. Now imagine a world where the United States never existed, where the American Revolution never took place, and the colonies remained under the rule of Great Britain. It sounds like a far-fetched fantasy, but what if I told you that some historians believe this alternate timeline almost became reality? According to these historians, the American War of Independence was not a clear-cut victory for the colonists. Instead, it was a complex and messy affair that could have easily gone in a completely different direction. They argue that the war was so chaotic and full of shifting alliances that it's impossible to say with certainty who really won. What? More. They claimed that the end of the war was not marked by the signing of the Treaty of Paris in 1783, but rather by a secret agreement made between American and British leaders in 1782. Treaty would have allowed the British king to retain the office of the Lord High Treasurer of North America, giving him control over all colonial trade. Essentially, it would have given Britain a backdoor way to keep the colonies economically dependent on them. However, the treaty was never ratified, which allowed the United States to be officially recognized by Britain in 1783. The historians argue that this second revolution didn't involve military conflict or political upheaval, but rather a quiet coup d'etat by American merchants who wanted more control over colonial trade. It is a fascinating theory that challenges our traditional understanding of American history and raises questions about the true nature of power and control. Did the United States really win the American Revolution? Or did it simply evolve into something new under the guise of independence? The answer may surprise you. As each of these examples shows, history is a delicate tapestry woven from memories, documents, and artifacts that can be easily distorted or misinterpreted. The past is never as static as we like to think, and it is constantly being rewritten as new evidence emerges and perspectives shift. So the next time you think you know a historical event inside out, remember that there may be more to the story than meets the eye. Who knows? You might just uncover a hidden truth that's been buried for centuries. Time traveling. As we reflect on these historical mysteries, one question looms large. Is time itself changing around us, rewriting our past and distorting our understanding of the world? Or are these anomalies simply the result of human error and the fallibility of our collective memory? Ultimately, the answer may lie in our own perception of time. We tend to think of it as a linear progression from past to present to future, a constant forward march that never changes. But what if time is more fluid than we realize? What if it's shaped by our experiences, memories, and interpretations of the world around us? Perhaps the true nature of time is not a rigid, unchangeable sequence of events, but a fluid and dynamic process that's constantly evolving, a process that's shaped by the way we remember and interpret the world around us. If that's true, then our understanding of history is not a fixed and unchanging reality, but a personal and subjective experience that's influenced by a wide range of factors. It's up to each of us to explore these factors, challenge our assumptions, and embrace the uncertainty of our past. Only then can we hope to understand the true nature of time and our place within it. Thank you for joining me on this journey through time. Until next time, keep questioning, keep exploring, and keep searching for the truth. Who knows, you might just uncover something that changes the way you understand history forever. Some say that we are living through an age of biblical prophecy, with many religious people believing that the signs of the times mentioned in the Bible are unfolding right now before our eyes. The recent event, known as the Mandela Effect, has therefore caused some to believe that something spiritual is happening to our world. So what could this be? Is the Mandela Effect a sign that the world is ending, or is there another explanation behind it? This is part 7 of our series on the Mandela Effect. Be sure to check out part 6 if you haven't already. But let's get started. For those who think that the Bible is a book of prophecy, these recent glitches in the Matrix could be seen as a sign that we are living through the end times. Many refer to Matthew 24, verses 36, when Jesus says, "But concerning that day and hour, no one knows, neither the angels of heaven nor the Son, but the Father only." In this passage, Jesus is said to have been asked about the destruction of the temple, and he responds by talking about the end of the age. He then goes on to explain that no one knows when the end of the world will happen, not even the Son, but only the Father. However, he does mention several signs that will take place before it happens. These signs include wars, rumors of wars, earthquakes, food shortages, disease, and most importantly, people betraying one another. If you ask me, things are looking pretty bleak, especially with all of the war going on at the moment. Not to mention all of the other problems that he mentioned. Another popular theory among religious people is that the Mandela Effect is proof that the Bible is literally coming to life. As believers know, the Bible has been around for hundreds of years, and up until recently, the text has remained unchanged. However, many have claimed that certain verses have been changed, and that these changes have been made deliberately. Take, for example, the verse, "God is love," from 1 John 4-8. 4 years. Many Christians have quoted this verse to explain that God is a being of unconditional love, but when they go to read it for themselves, they find that the verse actually says, "God is love." How did this change occur? Was it a simple typo, or is there something more sinister going on? Could this be a sign of the apocalypse? Well, the answer really depends on your beliefs. One thing's for sure, though. This isn't the only verse that has supposedly been tampered with. Others have pointed to passages like Revelation 22:18, which once warned of curses against those who tried to add to or take away from the words of the prophecy. Now it doesn't appear to say anything at all. It seems like certain parts of the Bible are disappearing right before our eyes. Are these changes simply the result of random human error? Or are they a deliberate attempt to alter the course of human history? Only time will tell. But until then, we can only speculate. There are also those who claim that the Mandela Effect is a sign of the rapture, which is said to be the moment when all Christians will be taken up to heaven. This event is said to occur before the tribulation period, which is a time of great suffering on earth. It is said that the rapture will be sudden and unexpected, and that it will occur when the church is at its most pure. This is because it is believed that after the rapture, the Antichrist will come to power and bring about a time of great tribulation upon the earth. During this time, false prophets will deceive many, and only the true believers will remain. So if the Mandela Effect is seen as a sign that the rapture is near, then it stands to reason that the tribulation must be close as well. However, there are also those who see the Mandela Effect as a sign of demonic activity. They believe that the changes in our collective memory are the result of interdimensional beings, spiritual deception, or reality manipulation. Perhaps these beings are trying to trick us into thinking that the world is changing when it really is UNT. Or maybe they are attempting to change our perception of reality so that we will be more susceptible to their influence. Whatever their motives may be, one thing is clear: we are in for a wild ride. When we look into the Bible, it does talk about the rise of Antichrist figures. This is someone who claims to be Christ, but really isn't. It is believed that this person will perform miracles and lead many astray. This fits perfectly with the idea that someone or something is trying to change our reality. By doing so, they could be preparing us for the arrival of the real But what does the Bible say about how we should deal with this kind of situation? Well, let's look at Matthew 24:36 again. But concerning that day and hour, no one knows, neither the angels of heaven nor the Son, but the Father only. In this passage, Jesus tells his disciples that no one knows when the end of the world will happen. Even the Son himself does not know. Only the Father knows. This means that we cannot rely on anyone who claims to know the truth. We must be careful to avoid being misled. It is important to remember that the Bible warns us that in the last days, there will be an increase in deception. In 2 Thessalonians 2:11, it says, "And for this reason, God will send them strong delusion, that they might believe the lie." This passage tells us that people will be deceived into believing a lie because they rejected the truth. We must be vigilant and make sure we are not among them. Many people today claim to have special knowledge about the end times. They may say things like, "I had a vision from God and he showed me that the world will end on such and such a date," or "I was praying and the Holy Spirit revealed to me the secret truth about the rapture." Statements like these may sound convincing, but we must remember what Jesus said in Matthew 24:36. Only the Father knows the truth. We cannot trust anyone who claims otherwise. In addition to being careful of those who claim to know about the end times, we must also be careful of those who try to capitalize on people's fears and uncertainties. There are many people who prey on the hopes and fears of others. When it comes to the end times, they may sell books or give seminars on how to prepare for the rapture or the tribulation period. They may also offer false hope to those who are struggling, claiming that the world is ending because the Bible says it will. We must be aware of these people and the motives. The Bible tells us that in the last days, there will be an increase in greed and materialism. In 2 Timothy 3:2, it says, "For people will only love themselves and their money. They will be boastful and proud, scoffing at God, disobedient to their parents, ungrateful, and they will consider nothing sacred." If someone is trying to sell us something in order to save us from the end times, we must remember that the Bible says people will be motivated by greed and materialism. We cannot trust those who are motivated by money, especially when it comes to something as important as the end times. The Bible also tells us to be careful of those who spread rumors and create division. In Matthew 24:6, it says, "You will hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that you are not troubled. For all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet." When it comes to the end times, we must remember to stay calm and not let fear control us. Although there will be wars and rumors of wars, we must not be troubled because these things must happen. However, it doesn't mean that the end is near. We cannot allow rumors and speculation to cause division and panic. Finally, the Bible tells us to be careful of those who claim to speak for God, but whose words do not line up with Scripture. In Matthew 7:15 it says, "Beware of false prophets who come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly are ravenous wolves." We must be careful of those who claim to speak for God, but whose words do not align with the teachings of the Bible. We cannot accept someone's word for it that they are speaking for God. Instead, we must examine their words and make sure they are in line with Scripture. In conclusion, the Mandela Effect has caused many religious people to believe that the world is ending and that the Bible is coming to life. While the Bible does teach us that we should be watching for the return of Jesus Christ, it also teaches us to be careful of those who try to capitalize on people's fears and uncertainties. We must be careful of those who claim to know about the end times, those who try to sell us something in order to save us, those who spread rumors and create division, and those who claim to speak for God, but whose words do not line up with Scripture. Let us remember that only God knows the truth about the end times, and that we should not be deceived by those who claim otherwise. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe for more videos like this one. If you would like to request a topic for us to cover in a future video, please leave a comment below. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time. Welcome back. In part 8, we're going to talk about technology, and let's start with CERN, the European Organization for Nuclear Research. This is where they smash protons together at near light speed to explore the building blocks of our universe. Now, this is incredible science, but it has also attracted a lot of attention from conspiracy theorists who believe that smashing atoms together at such high energies could create tears in reality, allowing alternate versions of ourselves to slip through and change history. But CERN isn't the only organization exploring the frontiers of physics. All over the world, teams of scientists are working on new and better ways to probe the mysteries of the universe. In the United States, Fermilab sits just outside Chicago and is home to the Tevatron, a particle accelerator that once held the title of the world's most powerful collider. It was here in 2008 that the first hints of the Higgs boson were found, a particle that gives mass to other particles. The discovery of the Higgs would later earn Peter Higgs and Francois Ingolt the Nobel Prize in Physics. For 2013, in Japan, the world's largest and most powerful linear particle accelerator is the KEC, the High Energy Accelerator Research Organization. It's home to the Bell 2 experiment, which will study the interactions of electrons and positons. These experiments are pushing the boundaries of our knowledge, but they're also raising concerns among some who believe that we do fully understand the implications of creating such large and powerful machines. One of the main fears is that something could go wrong, and we could end up creating a black hole that could destroy the world. Now, while this is a valid concern, there's no need to worry. Black holes can't be created by smashing atoms together. It takes an infinite amount of energy to create a black hole, and even the most powerful colliders in the world you won't come close to that energy level. So rest assured, we won't be ending the world anytime soon. However, there are some who say that these machines aren't just creating tears in space-time, but also tears in our minds. They say that when protons collide at high energies, it creates a state of consciousness. Some believe that this state is similar to the one that Tibetan monks enter during meditation, but instead of achieving enlightenment, those who believe this are simply being transported to alternate universes. This idea is supported by the Mandela Effect, which is the phenomenon where large groups of people all share the same false memory. One example is the belief that Nelson Mandela died in prison in the 1980s, when in reality he was released in 1990 and died in 2013. There are many other examples like this, and it has led some to believe that we all living in a simulation, and that every time we experience the Mandela Effect, we're being shifted to a new timeline. Now, some of the symptoms of this shift include a feeling of déjà vu, memories that feel more vivid and real than others, and dreams that seem to predict future events. Some say that this is because these alternate versions of ourselves are trying to send us messages from different timelines. Others believe that it's our consciousness that's traveling to other universes, experiencing different realities, and then returning to our own. There have been cases of people claiming to have traveled to the future and back. One famous case is that of a man named John Titor, who posted on an internet forum in 2000. He claimed to be a soldier from the year 2036, who had traveled back in time to 2000 to retrieve an IBM 5100 computer. He posted detailed information about the future, including things that didn't happen until years later. Eventually, his posts stopped abruptly, leaving many to wonder if he had been captured, or if he had simply returned to his own timeline. Some believe that these stories are true, and that time travel is possible. However, most experts agree that they're likely the result of elaborate hoaxes or misinterpretations of events. But the possibility of time travel continues to fascinate us. And there are those who claim that it's not just something that exists in science fiction, but is a reality that we can access with the right technology. One of the most popular theories is that wormholes could allow us to travel through time. A wormhole is a theoretical passageway that connects to points in space-time, allowing for the possibility of traveling to different universes or alternate timelines. While wormholes haven't been proven to exist, scientists believe that they could be out there somewhere in the vastness of space. Another theory is that time travel could be possible through the use of artificial intelligence. Some believe that by creating a machine that's capable of thinking and learning like a human, we could potentially create a device that's capable of traveling through time. This idea is still in the realm of science fiction, but it's not entirely out of the question. So let's ask you, do you think time travel is possible? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Then there are those who believe that time travel is possible through the use of advanced technology. One example is the belief that the Large Hadron Collider at CERN is capable of creating wormholes that allow for time travel. This idea is based on the fact that the collider accelerates protons to near light speed and smashes them into each other, creating a massive amount of energy. Some believe that this energy could be used to create a wormhole that allows for time travel. However, there is no scientific evidence to support this claim, and it is widely considered to be a fringe theory. Despite the lack of evidence, this issue stops some people from worrying that time travel could be happening, and that it could lead to all sorts of problems. One concern is that time travelers from the future could be altering the past, causing major disruptions to the timeline. Another concern is that time travelers could be bringing back dangerous diseases or technologies from the future. It is important to note that none of these concerns are based on any scientific evidence, and they are likely the result of people as fears of the unknown. Time travel remains a fascinating topic, and it's possible that someday it could become a reality. However, it's important to be critical of the information you find, and to rely on credible sources. There's no need to fear time travelers from the future, at least not yet. If you've ever experienced déjà vu, or had a dream that seemed to predict the future, you might think that you've encountered a time trap, but there are other explanations for these phenomena. Déjà vu simply means already seen in French, and it's often accompanied by a sense of familiarity. Some believe that this happens because our brains process information from our senses in different ways, leading to a feeling of familiarity. Dreams, on the other hand, are usually a reflection of our subconscious thoughts and feelings. Sometimes they can be so vivid that they feel like they're happening in real time. It's possible that a dream could accurately predict the future if it aligns with external events, but this is rare and shouldn't be taken as evidence of time travel. The truth is, there is no way to know for sure whether time travel is possible or if it is happening around us. But that doesn't stop us from wondering and exploring the possibilities. Some believe that time travel is possible by accessing higher dimensions. According to some theories, our universe has more than 3 dimensions, but we can only perceive length, width, and height. If we could access other dimensions, we could potentially travel through time. However, there's no evidence that other dimensions exist, and this remains a purely theoretical concept. Others believe that time travel is possible through the use of quantum mechanics. One example is the many worlds interpretation, which suggests that every time a decision is made, the universe splits into multiple timelines, creating alternate realities where different outcomes occur. Some believe that this could allow for time travel, but again, this is a highly theoretical concept. The idea of alternate universes and parallel timelines is a popular one in science fiction, but it's also gained some traction in the scientific community. Some physicists believe that the universe could actually be made up of multiple timelines that are constantly splitting off from each other. This theory suggests that every time a decision is made or an event occurs, a new timeline is created. In some timelines, major historical events play out differently, leading to alternate versions of our world. In others, the smallest details are altered, creating tiny variations from our own timeline. While this theory is still highly speculative, it is an interesting one that could potentially explain some of the anomalies that we observe in our own timeline. For example, there are instances where people have reported experiencing déjà vu, a sense of familiarity with a situation that they've never been in before. Some believe that these experiences could be explained by the many worlds interpretation, suggesting that the person has actually lived through the situation in an alternate timeline. It's important to note that there's no concrete evidence to support the theory of multiple time. However, it's an intriguing idea that could potentially explain some of the mysteries of our universe. Ultimately, the question of whether or not alternate universes and parallel timelines exist remains unanswered. But the theory is an exciting one that could potentially revolutionize our understanding of the universe. What do you think? Is it possible to travel through time? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to stay tuned for more videos like this one. Thanks for watching. So we've come to the final part in this series on the Mandela Effect. There are 2 more videos to go after this one. We're gonna go over some theories about why this all might be happening. But before we do, make sure you guys subscribe. Let me know in the comment section down below if you have any other Mandela Effect memories that you remember differently than most people. Also, let me know your thoughts on the theories we'll be going over in this video. And finally, tell me which theory you think is the most likely. All that being said, let's begin. Theory No. 1. The Mandela Effect is real, and it is being caused by groups of people who want to change history. This is the idea that the memories people are sharing aren't actually their own memories at all. Their memories being implanted into them by secret organizations, groups, or even governments. These outside forces could be doing so for a number of reasons. It could be to cover up a mistake, like the Mandela death scenario we discussed in part 4. Or it could be to rewrite history to better suit their own narratives. This idea is popularized by David Icke in his documentary, titled The Biggest Secret. In it, he cites a number of examples where there appears to be discrepancies between how certain events happened and how most people remember them. He suggests that these discrepancies are evidence that our memories are being manipulated by powerful forces. Now, while Icke doesn't specify who these forces are, they almost certainly government-affiliated. Given that governments have the resources and motivation to carry out such operations. So, according to this theory, the reason why so many people remember the Berenstain Bears as the Berenstain Bears is because a group of people wanted it to be that way. The same goes for the phrase, mirror being changed to Miria. It wasn't just some random occurrence. It was a deliberate act by those who want to control the narrative of history. However, there's another possibility here. What if it's not just governments that are changing our memories? What if it's also the people that we trust to provide us with information? Could the media be changing our memories to serve their own interests? Perhaps the idea that Mirie has always been the correct spelling is a subconscious effort by the media to shape our understanding of what is real. After all, the media has been known to manipulate public perception through subtle means in the past. Now, while this theory seems far-fetched, it's not entirely in fact, there have been instances in history where memories were deliberately altered. For example, in 1963, the CIA was caught doctoring a photograph of the Cuban Missile Crisis. The photograph showed Soviet Premier Nikita Khrushchev with a cigar in his mouth during a meeting with President John F. Kennedy. However, the CIA doctored the photo to make it look like Khrushchev was smoking a pipe. Why? Well, they thought that the image of a cigar-smoking Khrushchev would make him look too relaxed and therefore undermine the seriousness of the situation. As a result, the doctored photograph was released to the public, and for years it was believed that Khrushchev had been smoking a pipe during the meeting. It wasn't until decades later that the truth of the matter came out. Another example of memory manipulation can be seen in the case of the Bay of Pigs invasion. This was a failed attempt by the CIA to overthrow the Cuban government in 1961. However, the Kennedy administration downplayed the role of the CIA in the invasion in order to avoid any political backlash. As a result, for years, it was believed that the invasion was a spontaneous uprising by Cuban exiles. Again, it wasn't until decades later that the truth of the matter came out. These examples show that it is possible for memories to be manipulated, but they don't necessarily prove that this is what is happening in the case of the Mandela Effect. While there have been instances of memory manipulation in the past, there is no concrete evidence that it is occurring on a large scale in order to alter our understanding of the world. Furthermore, there is no evidence that the Mandela Effect is even real. It could be that the people who claim to experience it are simply misremembering events, or that they being influenced by outside factors, such as the media. Theories no. 2 and 3. The Mandela Effect is not real. People are either misremembering events, or being influenced by outside factors such as the media. To be honest, I think this theory makes the most sense. Our memories are fallible and can be influenced by a number of factors. We may see something once, and remember seeing it 10 times. Confirmation bias can also play a role in this. If we believe that something happened a certain way, we may interpret any new information as confirming our existing beliefs. Additionally, the media often shapes our understanding of the world through subtle means. This is done through the use of language, framing, and selective reporting. The media has the power to influence how we perceive events, and can often do so without our conscious awareness. That being said, there are a few problems with this theory. First, there are just too many coincidences. The Mandela Effect has hundreds of examples associated with it, and most of them point to a deliberate attempt to change our understanding of the world. It's highly unlikely that all of these examples are simply cases of misremembering or media influence. Second, there are instances where the Mandela Effect seems to have affected people regardless of their exposure to the media. This suggests that there may be other factors at play here. Finally, there are instances where the Mandela Effect has affected people's memories of private events that could not have been influenced by the media. This brings us back to the original question. What if the Mandela Effect isn't random? What if it's a sign that someone or something is trying to control our memories? Now, this might sound like a far-fetched conspiracy theory, but it's not entirely In fact, there have been instances in history where memories were deliberately altered. There are a few theories as to why someone would want to control our memories. One is that it's a way to control the narrative of history. By controlling what people remember, you can control how they understand the world. This could be used to manipulate people into thinking a certain way or to cover up mistakes from the past. Another theory is that it's a way to maintain power. By controlling people's memories, you can prevent them from remembering instances where those in power acted unjustly. This could be used to keep people compliant and prevent them from rebelling against those in power. A third theory is that it's a way to protect people from the truth. Depending on what the truth is, it could be too painful or disturbing for people to handle. In this scenario, those who are in control decide to protect people by controlling their memories and preventing them from learning the truth. In theory, controlling people's memories could be the ultimate weapon. If you can control what people remember, you can control how they think, feel, and behave. This could be used to create a perfect society where everyone is happy and compliant, or it could be used to commit atrocities without anyone ever knowing. The possibilities are really endless. Now, while this theory seems far-fetched, it's not entirely implausible. There have been instances in history where memories were deliberately altered. However, there is no concrete evidence that this is happening on a large scale. The Mandela Effect could simply be a result of misremembering or media influence. In conclusion, the Mandela Effect is a fascinating phenomenon that has captured the attention of many. While it may seem strange that so many people would misremember things in the same way, there are a number of possible explanations for this. It could be due to our fallible memories, confirmation bias, or media influence. It is also possible that there are other factors at play here that we're not yet aware of. Ultimately, the Mandela Effect is a reminder that our memories are not as reliable as we think, and that we should always be aware of the potential for manipulation. Before we wrap things up, let me know in the comment section down below which theory you think is the most likely. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure you guys subscribe. I'd greatly appreciate it. Also, tell me in the comments if you have any topics you want me to discuss in future videos. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. In our previous episodes, we explored how our waking reality is far from what it seems, revealing hidden forces that challenge everything we once believed to be true. Now, as we delve into part 10, prepare for a journey that will shatter the very foundations of your perception. Brace yourself, because today we're diving into the unsettling realm, where living in a fractured reality becomes all too real. Imagine a world where time folds in on itself, where past, present, and future intertwine in a chaotic dance, creating a fragmented reality that leaves you questioning your very existence. Welcome to a place where the rules of reality seem to have gone awry. where the familiar has become strange, and the boundaries between dreams and wakefulness blur. Here, you are not just a passive observer. You are a participant in a grand cosmic experiment, your consciousness navigating through shifting landscapes of memory and identity. Now, close your eyes and picture this. You've just woken up. The morning light filters through your window, casting gentle shadows on your room. You stretch, feeling the comforting weight of your blanket. But something's amiss. A discordant note rings in the silence. Your surroundings are subtly different. Not enough to raise immediate alarm, but enough to plant a seed of unease. The furniture seems rearranged. The wallpaper pattern changed. You shake off the feeling, attributing it to a dream. Yet as the day unfolds, the anomalies persist. Faces of loved ones appear distorted. Voices echo strangely. The very essence of familiarity has been compromised. Days turn into weeks, and the cracks in reality continue to widen. Conversations take on a surreal quality, words twisting in mid-sentence. Time itself seems to distort. Minutes stretch, then abruptly collapse, leaving you disoriented and confused. Your reflection in the mirror becomes a stranger, mocking you with an alien gaze. Are you losing your mind, or is the world unraveling around you? You question your sanity, but the unsettling truth is far more profound. You are neither crazy nor alone. You are merely awakening to the realization that the world you thought you knew is nothing but a tapestry of illusions woven by unseen hands. We invite you to join us on a journey to expose the hidden mechanisms that orchestrate this grand deception. Together, we will peel back the layers of this fractured reality, revealing the unsettling truth that lies beneath. The architects of this crumbling reality are entities whose very existence defies human comprehension. They operate in the shadowy realms of higher dimensions, manipulating the fabric of our world for their own inscrutable purposes. Imagine unseen puppeteers pulling at the strings of your life, orchestrating events that seem like random occurrences, yet are in fact part of a sinister design. These enigmatic beings exist beyond our normal perception, yet their influence permeates every aspect of our lives, subtly shaping our thoughts, emotions, and experiences. As you venture deeper into this labyrinth of deceit, you'll encounter fragmented memories, glimpses of truths that others seek to keep hidden. Your journey will lead you through treacherous landscapes of deception, where trust is a luxury you can no longer afford. Each step forward will unveil a piece of the puzzle, bringing you closer to the unsettling realization that you are merely a pawn in a game far greater than you could ever imagine. But be warned. The path to enlightenment is fraught with peril. The deeper you delve into the recesses of this fractured reality, the more the veil between the physical and spiritual realms thins. You'll be confronted with terrifying truths that threaten to shatter your sanity. Yet the most unsettling revelation awaits you at the heart of this chaos. The line between sanity and insanity blurs, leaving you questioning the nature of reality itself. And here is the crux of the matter. If our memories can betray us, if our history is malleable, if reality itself is subject to manipulation, what is it that we can truly trust? As you lie in bed, attempting to find solace in sleep, remember that even in the realm of dreams, deception lurks. For within the depths of your subconscious, fragmented images flicker, offering tantalizing glimpses of a world that exists just beyond your perception. If you've followed us thus far, you already know that the world we perceive is but a mere fragment of a much larger and intricate design. There are realities existing parallel to ours, each holding fragments of truths that our limited senses cannot grasp. It is here in the space between waking life and dreams that the boundaries of sanity begin to fray. Herein lies the unsettling truth. Every waking moment, every interaction, every cherished memory may be nothing more than a meticulously crafted illusion. The faces of loved ones you hold dear might be but phantoms, their love a figment of your deluded imagination. You might wonder, am I truly connected to those I call family, or are they figments of my fractured psyche? As you drift deeper into this labyrinth of doubt, you'll encounter fragmented memories, pieces of a shattered past that offer glimpses of truths others wish to keep hidden. The more you seek to understand, the more the line between sanity and insanity blurs, leaving you questioning the very nature of your existence. And now we come to the chilling culmination of this unsettling journey. At the heart of the fractured reality you inhabit, there exists an entity, a being of pure chaos that feeds on your very doubts and uncertainties. This entity, born of the darkest recesses of the non-physical universe, has been patiently waiting for you to awaken to the truth. Now that you have glimpsed the fragility of your reality, it beckons you to surrender to the abyss. It whispers insidious doubts, amplifying your fears, hoping to drag you into the maelstrom of madness. The entity's presence grows stronger with each passing moment, its tendrils of chaos reaching out to consume your sanity. You must resist, lest you become another lost soul trapped in the eternal torment of this fractured realm. To combat the encroaching darkness, you must first confront the unsettling truth within yourself. Accept the reality that the world you once knew is a shattered illusion, and that you are not what you once believed yourself to be. Only then can you begin to navigate this treacherous labyrinth. But be warned, the path ahead is fraught with peril. Memories both beautiful and painful will be laid bare, forcing you to confront the fragments of your past self. You'll be forced to confront the fragments of your past self. It is a harrowing journey, but one that holds the key to your ultimate rebirth. For it is in the crucible of this confrontation that you will forge a new identity, one that transcends the limitations of the old. Remember, the architects of this fractured reality are forever altering the fabric of existence, ensuring that your path remains a winding one. Stay vigilant, question every sense, and trust no one, not even yourself. In this realm where nothing is constant, where the very essence of your being is challenged, you must remain steadfast. Hold on to your fragments of truth, like a life raft in a sea of deceit. For in this world turned upside down, you are not merely a passive observer. You are a warrior, a seeker of truth in a labyrinth of lies. Your journey is far from over. The deeper you delve into the enigma of this fractured reality, the more you'll uncover the unsettling truth that binds us all. You are not alone in this cosmic dance of deception. There are others who have awakened to the grand illusion. Seek them out, for together you form a fragile alliance against the chaos that seeks to consume you. As you continue your perilous journey through this topsy-turvy world, remember that your perception is your greatest ally and your greatest enemy. Trust your instincts, for they are the echoes of your true self, yearning to break free from the shackles of illusion. Question everything, for only in skepticism does the possibility of truth reside, and embrace the fragments of your past, for they hold the key to your ultimate rebirth. Lest you forget, you are not just a traveler in this fractured reality. You are its architect. Your thoughts, emotions, and beliefs are the building blocks of your experience. In this realm where nothing is constant and everything is malleable, you have the power to shape your own destiny. So go forth, intrepid seeker of truth, and embrace the uncertainty that lies ahead. Let your curiosity be your guide and your intuition your compass. Remember, the answers you seek are within your grasp, hidden in plain sight. All you have to do is open your eyes to see them. Before you delve deeper into the mysteries that await, we implore you to join our growing legion of truth seekers. By subscribing to Umbri, you become part of a community that dares to question, explore, and enlighten. Together, we will navigate the treacherous currents of this fractured reality, supporting and enlightening one another along the way. As you drift deeper into the realm of the unknown, allow these words to serve as your North Star, guiding you through the darkest nights of doubt and uncertainty. Remember, you are not merely a spectator in this grand cosmic drama. You are an active participant, a co-creator of your own reality. Embrace the power that lies within you and dare to trust your own perceptions. In this topsy-turvy world, the line between sanity and madness is razor thin. So tread carefully and hold on to your fragments of truth. And should you find solace and enlightenment in our words, we invite you to reciprocate by sharing your own experiences and insights. Your journey is unique and your perspective invaluable. Who knows? You might just be the missing piece someone else needs to navigate their own path through this labyrinth of deceit. With that said, we bid you farewell for now, urging you to venture forth into the uncharted territories of your reality. May your curiosity be your guiding light, your intuition your steadfast companion, and your courage your shield against the encroaching darkness. Until next time, stay vigilant, curious, and above all, stay free.